Welcome to the show.
Next topic. We're talking about something actually serious now.
Oh.
Iron Fist?
Racial Discrimination Act.
No.
That's what I want.
With Jonathan J. Ratnam.
Okay.
Fresh out of China.
Jonathan J.J. Ratnam.
So, the Racial Discrimination Act dates back to, I think, 1975.
In Australia? It's an Australian thing?
This is an
Throwback
Australian...
Thursday.
This is an Australian Act of Parliament.
Sorry. Go on.
GBT.
You know, this is close to your heart, so.
No, I'm trying to work out why that's funny.
It's Thursday. Throwback
It's Thursday today.
Who said throwback?
I did. When you said 1976.
Do you think you just said Thursday?
You could have said that before in this podcast. Because we've talked about...
Yeah, but not all the way back to 75.
John, we can't talk about why
saying,
things are funny. That doesn't help.
Doesn't make any sense.
It really kills the vibe.
It doesn't need to make sense. It's just funny, alright?
Alright.
Alright.
I'll take your word for it. So I hope I didn't offend you just then. 'Cause
Well.
maybe.
So what happened? What happened in 75?
So what's happening in in 75? There was previously no law against offending or discriminating
Being
against
racist.
someone based on their race.
So
Right. So
wow.
this whole act actually covers a lot of stuff.
Otherwise known as freedom.
Okay, white man. Jeez.
That's Ye-Chan's job.
Okay,
Can you not take it? So part of this act is this section called 18C, right? And it basically talks about it's not legal for you to offend, insult, or humiliate someone on the basis of their race. That's upset people a lot in the last couple of years.
That's very interesting.
Especially,
I didn't know that.
What?
That is illegal to offend or...
Yeah, and
someone.
that's the thing that gets people, right? Because there's always this balance, right, between freedom of speech and like
Not being
having
repercussions.
human rights.
having a cohesive society
not
that
being a
doesn't
bigot.
that doesn't basically vilify a small group of people and make them feel like they don't belong. Which happened a lot to Aboriginal peoples. It's happened a lot to like other people groups that have come progressively over the years. So I think during the 70s it was probably like Italians and things in addition to Aboriginal people.
Drain
They're
the
basically all Aboriginal people have always been on the wrong end of this. Other immigrant groups have come in waves and then become more normalized in society, so people stopped being racist to them, I guess.
Except for Pauline.
So when it's the way it said that, it sounded like even like talking. Does it include everything, or is it just like press?
I think for context, this law really, really rarely ever actually results in someone getting prosecuted, and it's not a crime. It's like it's like a lower class, so you might just get a fine or be told to apologize.
I hope so, because I offend people every day.
Yeah.
you
on the
offend
basis
me
of
every
their
day.
race.
Yeah.
Really? Who? I mean,
Not the basis of
who, but like what race?
Not
do
the
you
basis of your
pick
race.
And what do you say?
Just all of them.
No, you have to be more specific than
Like
that.
making
Give us an
racist,
example.
Don't want to
racist jokes.
Yeah, like racial jokes or racial slurs.
But you're not
Like what?
offending people.
Yeah, but if I'm laughing and they're laughing, it's okay.
So they're not offended, so you're
Yeah,
lying.
so
They're
that's
not
fine,
offended,
you
but
wouldn't
can
be.
they just go, wait a minute, you just broke the law?
One of the earliest
Oh, they can.
one of the earliest people who tried to prosecute someone based on this was an Englishman who got offended by the use of the word pom.
What a
Classic.
classic pom.
Classic pommies.
Bloody poms.
He did not succeed. So I
that's
think it's basically a really
Why
small
is that good?
percentage.
Because English people, they're the worst.
They're the best.
Oh, God.
I like these.
Did that offend you, England?
These only get to
You like that, Queen?
I actually love
you like
the
that,
crown.
Harry Potter?
I'd have never appreciated the cream. The cream.
The cream of the crop.
You need some cream?
Never appreciated the queen.
The queen of the
Oh, I've
creams.
never appreciated the queen as much as after watching The Crown.
Was that British?
What was it?
Did you ever appreciate the Queen before at all?
No.
Okay.
I was like,
That's a low bar.
Her face is on my coins.
I
That's
don't-
all I know.
I don't really appreciate the Queen.
coin.
Anyway, so basically, a lot of people have tried to prosecute people and it hasn't succeeded because it's like it's got to go through a human rights commission who have to look at it and then decide if it's worth going to court. And there's a very small percentage that go to court, and then if of that, there's a very small percentage that have won. So it's a very few.
Are there any famous cases of winning it?
Yes. So Andrew Bolt got in trouble. Andrew Bolt is a right-wing talk show guy.
He's different to
columnist.
Usain Bolt.
I was about to say related
So
to
he's
Usain
not
Bolt.
a runner.
He's a white guy.
Andrew
okay.
Bolt.
Yeah,
I
Andrew
think I
Bolt.
know.
He's,
Bolt-
like,
it's
he
not-
has a thing on Sky,
Bolt the
I think,
dog?
called
Yeah.
the
It's
Bolt
not
Report.
the dog.
It's
mate.
not
Oh,
the
yeah.
dog with the white
Something like
dog.
that. Back in 2011,
White news guy.
he was successfully prosecuted, and it was because he insinuated that a group of light-skinned Aboriginals were faking being Aboriginal in order to get benefits.
Ooh.
And it's something along the lines of how he said it, because basically this law, the next caveat, 18D, says that you are allowed to say things that could be considered offensive if it's for the purposes of news or giving like
Oh.
facts or something like
Shivers.
that, describing a
Wait,
story.
what?
Context.
In the context of journalism, it's okay. And he is a sort of a journalist, but he's more like a shock jock type person. So,
Like Fox News.
Wait,
well,
so
he
it's
says a lot of things
okay-
that are provably not true.
So it's okay to be offensive about someone's race if it's in a news context?
Well, if you're describing a news story where someone
It's not
was
to
attacked
be
racially, you have
offensive.
to describe what happened in order to give people the news.
It's not to be offensive. It's things that could be found offensive.
It could be found offensive, but you're doing it because you're
Interesting.
trying to convey information to people.
Like trying to explain flat Earth theory.
He didn't lose that because of what he said. He didn't lose that because he said these people shouldn't be on pretending to not be on benefits. He lost it because the things that were in his story were factually untrue, which meant that 18D didn't cover it.
Nice.
So what happened? Did he get a fine?
I think he got some sort of fine and some sort of censure. But he's like a big deal in like conservative side. So like ever since then, conservative politicians have been trying to repeal that section of 18C and change it. And they basically say along the lines of, oh, it's impeding our freedom of speech. It's really hard to see that. There was another guy who made a cartoon that has like an Aboriginal policeman bringing an Aboriginal kid to his Aboriginal dad who's drinking like a beer. It was a cartoon depicting the Northern Territory and Indigenous like fatherhood there.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's got the dad going, I think the policeman goes, this one's yours or something like that. And the dad's going, right, what's his name then? Like,
Yeah.
terrible dad, and he's drinking and all that stuff. I think that cartoonist got in trouble. He's since passed away, but he's also a big like standard bearer amongst that particular group of people who really, really feel like their freedom of speech has been curtailed. By
It's so stupid. No one has
So-
stopped saying anything offensive because of this.
It's
in
really
their
hard
whole
to
lives.
find a scenario, except for
Yeah.
like a very small number of people who want to be able to say stuff that's factually untrue and offends people based on their race. Like, it's just such a narrow scenario for a government to be so focused on. It's pretty insane.
Isn't the news that they did change it though?
Yes.
Yeah, so
the
why is it in the
government
news this
is
week?
Passing legislation to change the law to remove the word offend because it's too vague in their opinion. I, to some degree, agree that the word offend sitting there.
What else
is
was it?
pretty vague.
Offends or...
Offend,
Three words.
insult, or humiliate
Okay.
on the basis of race or all the other things like
Offending
nationality,
is so
ethnicity.
subjective. Anyone could get
Yeah,
offended
it
by
is,
anything.
and I think that's the reason. Like, it never goes to court. That's the thing.
Yeah.
This thing, like, it's there, but it's never been interpreted to the nth degree that it could be.
It's
Like everyone always goes, oh, you can offend people all the time. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And this thing never gets through because it's really talking about like very, very serious cases of.
It also feels like
That.
a law that's there because it sort of has to be there. Like, we as a country have to have a law that states that racism is bad.
No, but I think it's...
No, the whole law as a like the law as a whole isn't getting changed. It's just this section of it.
Right.
I
the
think
law
it's
as
a
a
good
whole
law
protects against
because
it.
otherwise
yeah.
people can say stupid stuff on air
I
and
don't
say
think
whatever
many
they
other
want.
countries have a law like this. I don't see any point in changing it. I can't think of how bad a thing you would have to want to be able to say that you're not allowed to say right now. It's so
It's not
like
stopping anyone saying anything.
no,
Yeah,
everyone
like
says
Pauline
everything.
Hanson is still going strong. Like,
She nearly got in trouble because there was a book that was published in 2000, I think, it was by an anonymous publisher, but she owns the copyright, and it said like Aboriginal people are the lowest of the low of human beings and they eat their babies and stuff like that.
What the
But she
heck?
somehow got away with it because it was an anonymous author, even though she owns the copyright for it. So so it's obvious that she wrote it or
Jeez.
she had a hand in writing it, but she was allowed to get away with saying that. So the fact that she was allowed to get away with saying that in a book is like, this thing doesn't bite.
I don't think most people know it exists.
I didn't know it existed.
We sure know it now.
Yeah, no one's cared about it until
Yeah,
now.
and I think the few other times when it did actually get successfully prosecuted, it was people who held public office. And I'm okay with people who hold public office being held to a standard that's a bit higher.
Yeah, it seems like that's
Me
a good.
too.
Well, I guess, but isn't that also a reason you shouldn't have it? Because you should have people being able to represent people the way you want to be represented.
Yeah, so in 95, there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was a real left-wing politician, and he was saying it should be removed because the better approach to these things is not to legally stop people from saying it, it's to have them say it and then in public debate them.
Right.
Is to have a counter-argument for it.
Which I feel
public.
like I kind of fall on that side.
Yeah, I would as well, but I think the scenario is like, if it's a particular group of people, that might not actually happen. You're relying on there being a public defense for
I
people.
think it's fine to keep this law. Like, it's a good law. If anyone's like being ridiculous, like we've got it there and we can use it. And,
Yeah.
But people say stupid things all the time. We've never used it, so.
I see people like complaining a lot about political correctness in the context of this thing. I'm like, it's such a small scenario where it ever gets used. It's not inhibiting anyone's freedom of speech.
No, it isn't.
I guess in theory it sucks, but in reality, like,
Yeah, in
who
practice
cares?
it works really well. There's checks and balances. It needs to go through this commission in order to get to court, and then it needs to go through a judge in order to actually be like successfully prosecuted. It never happens.
So people are saying, "Oh, my free speech! I can't say whatever I want now."
Yeah.
People are always saying that.
Yeah, people seem to think that's the problem. Like everyone's... I don't know if people have this impression that there's a bunch of issues with the country that no one's dealing with because they're afraid to say certain words. But that's just not the case. Like there's no problem that people can't talk about. Like everyone can talk about a housing affordability crisis. Everyone can talk about like jobs are like... wages aren't increasing, inflation, all these things that
would be
cause problems
something
for
that people like would be afraid to talk about because you don't want to come out as saying you're
Immigration.
Clearly people aren't afraid because you get politicians going on air saying stuff like they're illegal arrivals, which
Drain
is
the
actually a
swamp.
factually untrue statement.
Stop the boats. Send
So
them back.
there's actually nothing that's being stopped from being said. Like everything people have said it, but that's a great example. People say so much crap about boat people on like TV.
Boat people sounds
Alright,
like
that's
people
enough
that
about
are
that.
born on a boat.
Is there
Half
actually
boat,
do you have
half
anything-
man.
Yeah, half boat, half
really
person.
good swimmers or something like
Boat
that.
people.
Oh,
Boat
jeez.
person.
Those
Okay,
boat
that's enough for
people.
that.
I'd rather be a